Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we are unpacking a massive, and I mean absolutely fascinating shift in the AI landscape. We're talking all about mastering the Claude AI ecosystem in 2026. Look, if you still think Claude is just, a standard chatbot that types out text, you are missing out on a total revolution in productivity. Today's explainer goes way beyond that simple chat interface. We're going to explore this expansive, agentic workspace that is literally reshaping how developers, knowledge workers, and massive enterprises get things done every single day. So, grab a notepad, because this is definitely going to change how you work.
All right, here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering in today's explainer. First, the 2026 Claude models. Second, advanced features and tools. Third, prompt engineering and education. Fourth, privacy and constitutional AI. And finally, pricing and performance benchmarks. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the 2026 Claude models, Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku.
Okay, let's dive into this.
When you're picking a model, it's really a deliberate trade-off between intelligence, speed, and cost, right? First up, we've got Opus 4.8. This is your heavy hitter. It gives you peak intelligence and this wild 128,000 token output limit. It is hands down the best choice for heavy R&D and advanced coding. Then, right in the middle is Sonnet 4.6. You can really consider this one your daily driver. It hits that sweet spot, perfectly balancing speed and reasoning, making it ideal for standard enterprise workloads. And finally, Haiku 4.5. This one is built for sheer, blazing speed and live support. Plus, and this is super cool, it now actually supports extended thinking at just a fraction of the cost. Now, check out this number, 1 million. That is the massive context window supported by both the Opus and Sonnet models. To put that into perspective, 1 million tokens equals roughly 750,000 words. That means in just a single prompt, you can feed Claude 3 entire novels side by side, or, months and months of complex meeting notes, or even a complete software codebase. So you aren't just asking it a simple question anymore, you're literally handing the AI an entire working universe to draw its answers from. Moving right along, Section 2, Advanced Features and Tools. Going beyond the chat interface. Let's talk about artifacts. These were originally released back in mid-2024, but they've been highly refined since, and honestly, they completely change the user experience. Instead of just spitting out text in a chat stream, Claude generates these interactive, self-contained windows right alongside your conversation. So if you ask Claude for a coded dashboard, a complex document, or even SVG graphics, it renders them natively right there in a separate workspace panel. And the best part? You can actually publish and share these AI-powered mini-apps with other people without ever exposing your personal API keys. It totally transforms Claude from a simple text generator into this highly interactive environment. So where's all this interactive stuff heading? Well, enter the Claude Cowork desktop agent. Launched in a research preview in January 2026, this is Anthropic's massive push into agentic AI. Here's how it works. You give Claude access to a local file folder on your computer, and it just operates autonomously. It reads your files, runs through complex multi-step workflows, and produces final deliverables right there in your folder. Anthropic actually calls this vibe working. It essentially means non-programmers can casually describe what they want, like, hey, turn these messy notes into a polished slide deck, and Claude just goes ahead and builds it directly on their desktop. It's wild. Section 3, Prompt Engineering and Education. How to become a true Claude power user. Okay, the real secret to unlocking Claude's full potential, it entirely comes down to combining system prompts with adaptive thinking. Think of a system prompt as setting the ground rules. It casts Claude in a very specific role, like explicitly telling it you are a strict Python coder who always follows PEP 8 standards. Then you layer in adaptive thinking. This is a super smart feature that automatically decides when a prompt actually needs complex step-by-step chain of thought reasoning. If a task is easy, it just skips the heavy processing, which saves you a ton of compute cost. So when you combine a strict system prompt with adaptive thinking, you're transforming a generic AI into a highly reliable, cost-effective expert that is tailor-made for your specific workflow. Let's actually break down what this looks like in an everyday workflow. Consider this 10-minute Socratic study session. This is an absolute game changer for focused learners. For the first 2 minutes, Claude fires off a quick 5-question quiz based on notes you've uploaded. Then, from minutes 3 to 6, it actively interrogates you with deep why questions to really test your logic. After that, it throws a mixed real-world scenario at you to apply what you know. And finally, at minute 10, Claude summarizes your weak points and drafts up a custom review plan. In this kind of setup, Claude isn't just handing you answers, it acts like a dedicated Socratic tutor that's literally forcing you to use active recall.
Section 4, Privacy and Constitutional AI. Let's look under the hood.
The whole system really starts with constitutional AI. This is Anthropic's foundational safety framework. Now, traditional AI usually relies super heavily on human feedback to fine-tune its responses, which, let's face it, can be pretty inconsistent. But constitutional AI trains the system using a core set of guiding principles, quite literally a constitution. The AI actually evaluates and adjusts its own responses against these rules before it ever shows them to you. This is exactly why the model behaves so safely and predictably, and honestly, it's a huge reason why it's trusted so much in massive enterprise environments.
Now, notice the stark contrast in how your data is handled here. Back in October 2025, Anthropic instituted this forced choice privacy model for Claude. What that means is you are explicitly asked to opt in if you want your conversations used for their training. If you say no and opt out, they only retain your data for 30 days. Boom, done. Contrast that with ChatGPT's train by default stance. They automatically train on your conversations unless you actively hunt down the settings buried in the menus to opt out. For businesses and professionals who are rightly terrified of data leaks, Claude's transparent forced choice gate is just massively reassuring.
Section 5, Pricing and Performance Benchmarks. Let's talk RTA and subscriptions. And this brilliantly illustrates the current landscape. If we look at the Real-Time to Answer, or RTTA, performance study, comparing Claude, ChatGPT 4o, and Gemini across 25 practical workloads, the results are really interesting. The data shows that, yeah, ChatGPT is about 9% faster, and Gemini is roughly 12% faster on average. But speed really isn't everything. The study clearly concludes that Claude remains the incredibly stable reference point for things like structured, heavy batch processing, and really deep reasoning tasks. So why the speed differences? Well, it all comes down to architectural trade-offs. ChatGPT 4o uses immediate token streaming, which gives it that super consistent, snappy, instant reply feel. Gemini, on the other hand, relies heavily on real-time web crawling. That's fantastic for pulling fresh data, but it causes these massive latency spikes when you give it a complex task like translation. Then you have Claude. Claude uses pipeline-based generation. Sure, that means a slightly slower RTTA, but it completely avoids those unpredictable spikes, making it unbelievably reliable when you need deep reasoning and complex multi-stage logic. So, how do all these capabilities translate into the subscription tiers? Well, the free tier is actually pretty generous. You get Sonnet 4.5, memory across your conversations, and some limited use of artifacts. But honestly, the pro tier at $20 a month, that is where the magic happens. You get 5 times the usage limits, access to the absolute powerhouse Opus 4.6 model, the K-Work desktop preview we talked about, and extended thinking. For the super heavy users, there's a max tier at $100 a month with massive limits. But just think about the ROI here. If that $20 Pro plan saves a busy knowledge worker just 1 single hour a month, it is easily paid for itself. No question. Which brings us to our final thought for today. We've explored massive 1 million token context windows, autonomous desktop workflows, Socratic learning setups, and some incredibly strict forced choice privacy protocols. So I want to leave you with this question. Is your current AI stack actually optimized for your privacy needs and your workflow complexity? I really challenge you to rethink your default habits, weigh the real costs and capabilities we unpacked today, and consider if it's finally time to upgrade how you work. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.